This performance had been inevitably impending for a significant period of time. There's no doubt about that one. But the sheer refusal to engage in the contest after William Saliba's soft and predictable opener was a damning reflection of the club's current precarious position. Saka slotted home from 12 yards, which symbolised the beginning of the end of any hopes of a West Ham resurrection. And then Gabriel netted the away side's third from another Rice ball into the box, with a reoccurring theme of our defensive inability to clear the ball away. Completing a dismal first 45 was Trossard getting in on the act to inflict further pain on this West Ham side, but that were bereft of any ideas or a fundamental plan by the time the halftime whistle blew at London Stadium. With hundreds heading for the exits and not just for a pie and a pint, the anger began to explode through the fan base after the realisation of the onslaught that we were all witnessing, with second half additions courtesy of Bukayo Saka and a perler from Declan Rice, which followed a respectfully muted celebration. However, this, of course, did inflict further pain to the few who have remained to see it out after the unravelling performance that they were witnessing before their very eyes. Listen, the stats speak undoubtedly for themselves. 3 shots, 1 on target. West Ham's worst league defeat in over 60 years. The 5th biggest defeat in West Ham's history. It's a devastating spectacle, but the concerns are, and it's the reality of what is the resolution. Once again, we get left with more questions than answers regarding team selection, January business, the lack of it, I should say, managerial position, the sort of untenableness of David Moyes in his current role. Is that the case? That's up to you to decide. And the fundamental direction and philosophy of the club, which at the moment looks all but lost. Welcome back to West Ham Unofficial. I hope you are all well. I'm here to reflect on that absolutely dismal display at the London Stadium this afternoon. I don't even want to repeat the scoreline because it makes me feel sick, to be honest with you. It was just utterly pathetic. And, I can reel out all the adjectives and negative phrases that I can about this game, and they all fit, to be honest. And, just in my opening piece there, I think I managed to sort of provide my views and the thoughts and the sort of tone that I'm trying to get at here, and how just awful that was this afternoon. And the thing that I really want to zoom in on is one of the opening lines was the sheer inability to engage in the contest. That's the most annoying thing about it. We were quite comfortable up until they scored their first goal, I thought. And that wasn't for long, but we didn't seem under too much threat. And defensively, we were just all over the place this afternoon. And I don't know who you blame in that sense, but Zuma looks absolutely awful. He's had it. His legs have had it. And this year, this calendar year, he has decreased. His form has decreased massively. And it's showing on, the amount of goals that we're currently conceding, which is a huge concern. And yeah, it's just we've given up. I mean, we gave up, and that is unacceptable no matter what situation you're in. And yes, there's a little bit more leeway and understanding when you're 4 or 5-0 down in the second half with nothing to play for in the game. But the heads have gone when we were 1 or 2-0 down. That game was far from done at 1-0, but the way it was done and the way, the game was in the end eventually completed was because we just let Arsenal dictate the play. From that moment on, it seemed like we admitted defeat as soon as they scored their first goal. It was blatantly obvious what they were going to do. They'd done it for a couple of corners before. They were all going to run in from the back post. It's not like you can't see them. They weren't flipping bright yellow, for God's sake. They're like a bunch of highlighters running into the box. They did it on various occasions. It was so obvious what they were going to do, and we didn't manage to cotton on and sort of man mark instead of our stupid zonal marking, which then meant that all of the Arsenal players coming in to the sort of central area of the box had the run on our defenders, so inevitably leaped higher than our defenders, and they managed to score a couple of goals from set pieces, and we didn't work that out. I mean, honestly, some of the defending that we saw today, I think it massively symbolised how much we gave up so early on in the game, which is utterly pathetic, to be honest with you. That game was, that game could have been ours today, but after that first goal, we were shocking, and there's absolutely no doubt about it. Arsenal were taking the absolute mick. It was painful. And you know what? I don't blame a single fan for leaving at halftime today. I don't blame them whatsoever. There's been a little bit of backlash towards, of course, the aerial footage of the few that were leaving the London Stadium at halftime. Don't blame them at all, because honestly, it's like torture. I really struggled to sit there and watch it this afternoon, and I wasn't even there. So glad I wasn't there this afternoon, to be honest, because it was, yeah, painful doesn't even cover it. These adjectives, I mean, I'm lost for words. These adjectives don't cover the severity of that this afternoon. And when I've done rants in the past, and that game against Brighton is one that sticks in the memory. Moyes came out in his post-match presser, and he didn't directly blame the fans, but he had a little dig at the fans. I mean, that wasn't there today. His tone was really quite damning in his post-match press conference interview with the West Ham with the West Ham TV. Actually, it was quite shocking, and the way he just said, "Yeah, totally unacceptable," and he took full responsibility for it. Now, that doesn't disregard, that doesn't take away how poor it was, and we've accepted responsibility, that's fine, all the rest of it, but that simply wasn't good enough. We haven't been good enough for a long period of time. Our last victory was against these lot at their place on the 28th of December. We're now on the 11th of February. People need to start waking up, and waking up fast, or our season is only going one way, and it's going right down. We can kiss goodbye to any sort of European football going forward, because that today was a sign of a relegation team. That was a sign of a relegation team today. I've seen Sheffield United, I've seen Luton, I've seen all these sides. They've put in far superior performances to that today. It was an utter embarrassment. They were taking the absolute mick out of us. You've got all the pundits now coming out. They're all wheeling themselves out, going how poor West Ham were, despite for the last 2 years they've sat there on their channels and stuff saying how disgusting it is. West Ham fans want David Moyes out of this club. Well, that is exactly why West Ham fans want David Moyes out of this club, because the football is absolutely dire. And yes, we say thank you for Prague. And yes, we say thank you for the European adventures that Moyes has taken us on. But if we've got any direction, if we've got any ambition as a football club, all good things have got to come to an end. And believe me, there's been some really not good moments under this tenure of David Moyes. And believe me when I say, if we show any ambition, if we show any sort of philosophy going forward, David Moyes is not manager of this football club next season. He should not be in that dugout in August. I'm sorry, I've just had enough of it. I've bit my tongue. I've stuck on the fence all season. We've sort of created the term Moyes neutral, where he's not going to get sacked, and we're not particularly liking the football, but he's got us out of situations. He's got us wins. When we were questioning him in November and December, he brings out brilliant wins against the two clubs in North London, a win against Manchester United in there as well. This season, he's always turned up and just put a performance back in our face, but he's been unable to do that this time. We failed to beat Brighton. We failed to beat Bristol City on 2 occasions. We failed to beat Sheffield United. We failed to beat Bournemouth. We are winless in 7 in all competitions, and our season is rapidly declining. It's going downhill very, very sharply unless we do something about it. And there's so many issues here. I mean, it's the fundamental way we play football. And yes, it's okay when it works, but believe me, when it doesn't work, it is dire. And that's what we've seen over the last month and a half, really, ever since the 28th of December. It's all gone downhill since then. I know we lost Kudus and Bowen and all the rest of it, but I mean, it doesn't excuse why we let go. Benrahma and Fornals are not good enough, but why we let them go? We've got Ben Johnson playing on the left wing when we've got Cornet, a left winger, on the bench. Cornet and Ings were the only two of the very few players that put in a decent performance over Sheffield United in January, and they haven't had a sniff since. What's the point of that? You've got to reward players' performances with minutes on the pitch. Danny Ings has been shocking for 2 years. He puts in a decent performance against Sheffield United, dropped. Cornet can't get a sniff in, scores a goal, dropped. His man management is pathetic. And once again, we get that today. The amount of devastating defeats we've had this season. I mean, score lines and just performances as well. If I run through performances that we've had this season that have been dire, the Everton at home one comes to mind. There's plenty that I can reel off. Then I can go on to the results this season. We've lost away from home at Fulham 5-0. We've gone to Liverpool and been battered 5-1. We've been battered by Arsenal 6-0 at home. It's just not good enough. We shouldn't be standing for this as a football club. And if, as I said, if we've got any ambition, listen, there's no point saying sack Moyes now, because it's not going to happen. It's, the board just simply aren't going to want it as much as I'd like a change and a fresh start. the earliest we're going to get that is in the summer, and I think that's pretty optimistic thinking, to be honest, with all the reports of contract negotiations are continuing for a David Moyes new contract. And the question I ask for the people that are in favour of David Moyes is, do you really want to sit there on your Saturday and Sundays for the next 2 years and watch that utter crap? Because I don't. I want to be entertained. I want to look forward to watching and going to West Ham. And at the current moment in time, after watching that today, I've got no words. Honestly, that performance doesn't even deserve words because of how poor it was. You know, there's one thing doing it against any team, but there's another thing doing it A, against a London rival, and B, against a side that is, you know, it's meant a lot to beat them this season because everything that's happened there. And there was also an "I'm sorry" expression on the face of Declan Rice when he scored. You know, whether that was, you know, I'm no body language expert by any stretch of the imagination, but even he looked a little bit sorry for us at that point. And I just put my head in my hands and couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was just torture to watch. It was absolute torture to watch. Moyes has taken responsibility for it. That's all well and good. I don't care whether he's taking responsibility for it. I want a resolution. What's Moyes' resolution to this issue? Because this isn't just a standalone game. This has been building up for a hell of a long time, that today. You know, we've had performances equally as poor as that, and we haven't been capitalised on. Today, boy, Arsenal capitalised on our naivety, on our awful ability to go forward and create chances and defend all aspects today. The midfield dominated, defensively awful, attacking wise we were ineffective because we didn't get the ball to the attacking players enough for them to cause any threat. I could go on all night, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to let off some steam and say, I'm fed up of this. I've had enough. You know, I'm really struggling to see the positives now. And yes, Moyes will pick out a brilliant, we'll have a brilliant result against the big side soon, or we'll string a couple of wins together. But at the end of the day, if any West Ham fan says they enjoy watching this style of football, they are lying to you. Trust me, they are lying to you, because it's just so tedious and hard to watch. And yes, I know there's the argument of, if we get a flamboyant manager in, we'll start finishing 13th and we won't do as well. And the Pellegrini situation. But honestly, there's been people today who said they have anybody over this current, over this current managerial individual, because it's just boring. It's just utterly boring. And people are getting fed up of going over there and watching this week in, week out. People are getting fed up of traveling up and down this country every single week to watch this. All we ask for is a bit of attacking intent. All we ask for is for the players to give 110%. And believe me, we didn't get half of 110% today from those players, because one thing that we do not accept as West Ham fans is players giving up so early in the game. And I'm not letting anyone tell me otherwise. Today, those players gave up after that first, maybe second goal. The heads dropped and they didn't rise back up again. They didn't, not at all. You could put that on Moyes. He's got to take blame. You've got to put blame on the players as well. You've got to put blame on whoever decided to let go Benrahma and Fornals and not replace them, because that's going to come back to bite us on the arse at some point as well, because we have got no cover in those areas. We've got Cornet and Ings, and that is it. That's going to come back to bite us. That's another issue that we're going to have to contend with in the second half of this season. And look, however far Paqueta and Antonio are back, they're not miracle workers. You know, they will improve our game because they are good players, especially Paqueta. They will improve us. But at the end of the day, as I said, they aren't miracle workers. This isn't just a flicker switch change for this side. There are so many players in this team and squad that should be nowhere near our football club because they are simply not good enough. We've had this issue for some time. We shifted 2 go, which weren't good enough. We didn't replace them, which I didn't understand. But again, today, when you look at that team, there's a hell of a lot of players that aren't good enough, that shouldn't be playing. Souček is one of them. There's huge question marks. I've got to go over the centre half today as well. Zuma and Agerd, are they really good enough to take us on next season and be our centre half partnership? Soufal, he's struggled this season. Is he the sort of player we want at right back going forward? When you look at Emerson on one side and Soufal on the other, there's a huge difference between the two players. And look, there is so many issues with this. And I think it's rooted all the way through, you know, the sort of, because Moyes has got his structure here now, and to remove that is going to take some doing, and to sort of try and change our ways as a football club is going to take some doing. And look, I don't know how it changes. I don't see an immediate resolution for West Ham in the short term or the long term. That's the concerning part of it, because the longer we see performances like that today, the longer we're going to have to suffer. Because we suffered today watching that. Absolutely embarrassed on the Premier League stage, live on Sky Sports. Millions watched that today and have seen that and seen us get absolutely battered, annihilated, and just completely and utterly embarrassed. And I don't think we should stand for it anymore. I think enough is enough. What's your thoughts? Put that into the comment section down below. Am I overreacting? Am I just a little bit frustrated on an evening of a devastating and damning defeat at the hands of North of London rival Arsenal? I don't know, but I feel a little bit better now that I've let all that steam off. So if you enjoyed this video, drop a like on it, subscribe to West Ham Official if you are new. We'll now attempt to build up to what is a huge game away from home at Nottingham Forest next weekend. Boy, do we need 3 points from that one. Otherwise, this prolonged period of pain is going to continue, and I don't think we can all stand it continuing, to be honest with you. But yeah, thoughts into the comment section. Thanks for watching. Come on, you irons, and I'll see you soon right here on West Ham Official. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.